Chioma Olatunde stood at the edge of the marble-topped kitchen island, her fingers drumming lightly against the cold surface as the morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The Olatunde mansion was awash in an almost obscene display of luxury, glossy hardwood floors, gilded fixtures, and imported art. But this morning it felt more like a gilded cage. Chioma's keen eyes scanned the breakfast spread. Fresh mango slices, flaky croissants, avocado toast sprinkled with microgreens, and 2 tall glasses of pineapple orange juice, one garnished with a sprig of mint. Tunde Olatunde swept into the kitchen, immaculately dressed in a tailored navy suit, his cufflinks glinting beneath the recessed lighting. His smile was polite but distant, practiced, like the one on a billboard. "Good morning, my beautiful Chioma," he said, setting one of the glasses before her. "I thought you might like something tropical. I know how much you love pineapple." Chioma forced a small smile. "Thank you, Tunde." Her voice sounded oddly flat in the cavernous room. She lifted the glass, inhaled the sweet scent of citrus, and hesitated. The juice looked perfectly normal, almost inviting. But a flicker of doubt had whispered to her last night, when she'd glimpsed Tunde's half-empty prescription bottle tucked into his cufflink box. A poison, perhaps? Something subtle, nearly undetectable. Tunde leaned against the counter, his gaze warm but his eyes guarded. "You seem quiet today. Everything all right at the office?" Chioma set the glass down, watched the golden liquid swirl. She had spent a sleepless night replaying every small slight over the past months. His sudden impatience, the hushed phone calls behind closed doors, the way he'd flinched when she stood too close. It didn't make sense. "Yes," she lied softly. "Just tired." He nodded, his smile tinged with concern. Or was it relief? "Take your time." She picked up her fork, pierced a strawberry on her croissant. Tunde sampled his own juice, swelling it once before swallowing. Chioma's pulse pounded. She wanted to call his bluff, to challenge him. But she needed proof. She needed patience. At that moment, Lola Olatunde, Tunde's younger sister, sashayed into the kitchen, her heels clicking against the marble. She was the picture of entitlement, designer dress, oversized sunglasses perched atop her head. "Morning, sis," Lola drawled, plucking the remaining juice glass. "Is this mine?" "Yes," Tunde replied coolly. "I grabbed 2. He glanced at Chioma, lips twitching. "I'll be late for the boardroom meeting. Call me if you need anything." With that, he was gone, leaving Chioma alone with her doubts and Lola's careless laughter. Chioma raised an eyebrow. "You know," she said quietly, "it's bad luck to swap drinks at strangers' tables." Lola laughed, shrugged. "It's just juice, Chioma. Don't be so dramatic." She took a big gulp, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Delicious." Chioma watched her sister-in-law saunter away. Every instinct screamed at her to act, but she played it cool. As Lola turned the corner, Chioma reached beneath the counter, her hand brushing the cold metal of a compact mirror. A plan was already forming. Chioma slipped into her study, an intimate sanctuary tucked behind a sliding panel in the library. The walls were lined with books, each spine whispering stories of courage, intrigue, and justice. She placed her coffee cup on the walnut desk and closed the door softly. Her heart raced as she retrieved a small vial from the inner pocket of her designer blazer. It was empty now. The poison she'd suspected was gone. She'd slipped it into Lola's glass minutes ago, masquerading as mint extract. And Lola, ever careless, had drunk it all down without a second thought. Chioma sank into the leather chair, exhaling slowly. Every nerve was alive. She stared out the window at the manicured lawns below, imagining the panic that would erupt when Lola realized what she'd ingested. But Chioma refused to let herself feel remorse. Tunde had tried to end her quietly. She would not go down without a fight. A soft chime sounded. The intercom. She pressed the button. "Yes." The butler's voice crackled. "There's an urgent message from Dr. Ibuk." Chioma's pulse skipped. She tapped the screen and played the message. Madam Chioma, you should return downstairs immediately. It's an emergency. The doctor's tone was clipped, professional, but urgency trembled in his voice. Thank you, Chioma replied, and ended the call. She smoothed her skirt and stood, smoothing down imaginary wrinkles. On her way out, she paused by the mirrored wall and whispered, "Let the games begin." The grand foyer was chaos. Guards and staff clustered around Lola's body, which lay limp on the marble floor. Her designer heels kicked off to the side. A single crimson bloom of liquid stained her blouse. "Somebody call 911, someone screamed. Dr. Ibuku was already at Lola's side, checking her pulse. Tunde burst from the stairwell, his face ashen. "Lola!" he yelled, crouching beside the fallen woman. He gripped her hand, eyes frantic. "Lola, wake up. Please." Chioma squeezed through the crowd, her expression a mask of concern. "What happened?" she asked calmly. A maid pointed. "She just collapsed." No warning. Tunde looked up at Chioma, bewilderment and fear warring in his eyes. "Chioma, did you see anything?" Chioma nodded. "She drank some juice. I saw her stir it." She kept her voice steady. She had to sell this. "It looked fine." Dr. Ibuku shook his head. "It's too early to tell. She's unresponsive, but we need to get her to the hospital." As staff cleared a path, paramedics arrived. Tunde rose, brushing off his suit. His jaw was clenched, lips white. "Chioma," he said quietly, "we need to go." She followed him out, every step measured. Inside, Chioma felt a thrill of power. She was in control now. Chioma paced the private waiting room at St. Gabriel's Hospital, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, Oma," she told her mother. "I'll keep you updated." "No, it's just a scare." She hung up and sank into the plush armchair. 20 minutes later, Dr. Ibuku emerged, his white coat immaculate but his brow furrowed. Tunde stood abruptly. "Doctor, is she?" The doctor raised a hand. "Mr. Olatunde. Mrs. Olatunde." He addressed Chioma directly, voice cold. "Miss Lola's condition is stable for now, but we've detected traces of a foreign toxin in her system." Tunde's eyes widened. "Toxin? What kind?" Dr. Ibuku glanced at Chioma. "I'm bound by patient confidentiality, but I can tell you the toxicology report will take 48 hours. Until then, we're monitoring her." Tunde's face went pale. He looked at Chioma, searching her eyes. Chioma gave a small, sympathetic nod. "Thank you, doctor." The doctor hesitated, then said quietly, "Given the unusual circumstances, I suggest you avoid jumping to conclusions until we have the full report." With that, he retreated down the hallway. As soon as the door clicked shut, Chioma rose. She crossed to the doctor, catching up with him in the corridor. She slipped a small envelope into his hand. "Doctor, I appreciate your discretion," she murmured. He looked at her, caught the subtle weight of the envelope. Inside was enough cash to fund his next research grant. He slipped it into his coat pocket without a word, nodding curtly. "Your secret is safe." Chioma returned to Tunde, who looked shaken. "What is it?" he asked hoarsely. "Nothing," she whispered, taking his hand. "It's all going to be fine." That night, the mansion was silent, no servants left, no guards patrolling. Chioma crept down the corridor toward the security room, her heels replaced with soft slippers. She carried a slim USB drive and the confidence of a woman with nothing left to lose. Inside the darkened room, monitors flickered with grainy black and white feeds from every corner of the estate. Chioma slipped into the chair, plugged in the drive, and tapped the keyboard. She navigated the folder labeled June, kitchen, 0700 hours. There it was, Tunde's reflection in the countertop, pouring from a vial into her glass. His face was set, expression unreadable. Chioma's breath caught. She clicked export, watching as the Feil coppered over. A sudden noise made her freeze. The door cracked open, and Uncle Bode, the family accountant, peered in. His thin lips curled into a secretive smile. "I see you found something," he whispered. Chioma didn't flinch. "Hello, Bode." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I know what that is," he said, nodding toward the monitors. "And I know what you can do with it." She stood, her heart hammering. "If you want a cut of the family business, I'm listening." He laughed, a low sound. "No, my dear. I want to see them all crumble." Chioma's lips curved into a determined smile. "Then we have a deal." As they shook on it, Chioma felt a surge of triumph. The first move was hers, and the Olatunde Empire was already tilting. Soon, the whole family would fall. Chioma didn't sleep well that night. The taste of power in her mouth was bittersweet. She'd set the first trap and watched Lola fall, but she still lacked the full picture of Tunde's betrayals. By midday, she had arranged to run an errand at the city's most exclusive cafe, the Gilded Bean. It was there, she'd been told, that Tunde's mistress often met him. She arrived in a simple cream blouse and black pencil skirt, understated enough not to draw attention, yet tailored to hint at the wealth she'd been promised. The cafe's glass facade shimmered in the noonday sun. Inside, sunlight filtered through bronze chandeliers, illuminating rows of exotic tea tins and silk-upholstered chairs. At a corner table sat a woman with flawless honey-brown skin and sculpted features, Yemisi. She laughed lightly at something on her phone, her Louis Vuitton bag perched on the chair beside her. Chioma's breath caught. Yemisi had been her rival in university, back when campus gossip scopes spanned gowns and lecture halls. She had once spread a rumor that Chioma was sleeping her way to the top. Their animosity had lingered, until now. Across from Yemisi strode Tunde, sleeves rolled up on his bespoke shirt, revealing smooth forearms. He looked less polished than at home, more relaxed, laughing, leaning in as Yemisi delicately sipped her matcha latte. The sight jagged Chioma's heart, but she held her face neutral. She slipped into the cafe, ordered a green tea to mask her true purpose, and chose a seat with a perfect line of sight to their table. Pretending to scroll through her phone, she watched Tunde's hand drift toward Yemisi's knee, the way he touched her so intimately. The code of betrayal was written in every gesture. At that moment, Yemisi glanced up, caught Chioma's reflection in the window behind them. Her eyes widened, recognition flashing. Chioma met her gaze, unwavering. Yemisi's face paled. Tunde, sensing tension, turned. "Chioma!" His voice boomed in the hushed cafe. Heads turned. Chioma rose, placing a hand on the back of a chair. "Tunde!" Her voice was calm, measured. "Fancy seeing you, hey?" Tunde's mouth twisted. "You." He looked to Yemisi, alarm sparking in his eyes. Yemisi stood too, smoothing her skate. "Chioma." "Hi." Her voice trembled. A gust of wind rattled the door as Chioma crossed the floor, the polished marble echoing her heels. When she reached the table, she planted her hands on its surface and leaned in, close enough for only them to hear. "You never told me about her." Chioma's tone was soft but deadly. Tunde swallowed. "Chioma, it's not what you think." His eyes flicked to Yemisi, then back to Chioma. "Is it?" Chioma tapped her manicured nail against the table. "We met freshman year, didn't we?" Yemisi's throat bobbed. "Chioma, please." Chioma straightened. "I've seen enough today." She glanced around. A waiter hovered. Smiling sweetly, Chioma addressed him. "Check, please." Then to Tunde, "We'll continue this at home." Tunde hesitated, mouths agape, turning back to their phones. Chioma swept past them, the click of her heels a weapon. Outside, she hailed her driver and slid into the back seat, closing the door before either could follow. As the car pulled away, she pressed her fingertips to her temple, centering herself. The revelation of Yemisi's affair was a potent weapon, one she would use with surgical precision. But first, She needed allies. And an audience. Back at the mansion, the staff had already begun whispering. Miss Chioma looked tense today. Mr. Tunde seemed upset. But Chioma performed flawlessly. Later that evening, she joined Tunde in the study, where he stood by the fireplace, jacket off, sleeves rolled, eyes tired. The crackling firelight danced across his face. Thank you for coming, he said, voice tight. I owe you an apology. Chioma closed the door, removed her heels, and perched on the edge of his desk. She tilted her head. For what? Her tone was gentle, soothing, even. He rubbed the back of his neck. For making you jealous. He exhaled. Yemisi and I had business meetings. It's not what you think. Chioma's lips curved into a small smile. She reached out, brushed his cheek. I'm sorry I barged in. I didn't mean to accuse you. He stepped closer. You're the only one I love. He took her hand, trailing his thumb over her knuckles. Chioma let a soft sigh escape. She pressed closer, wrapping her arms around his neck. I love you too. Tunde's relief was palpable. He kissed her forehead. Chioma savored his warmth, the rhythm of his heartbeat against her palm. As they embraced, Chioma's mind raced. Her forgiveness was performance. Every touch, word, and glance recorded by the hidden camera network she'd expanded that afternoon. She had cameras in the study too, feeding live to the USB she carried. When Tunde finally drew back, she tilted her head, eyes warm. Let's have dinner with my mother tomorrow, she suggested softly. She misses you. He nodded, eyes shining. I'd like that. Later, in her private office, Chioma accessed the recording. Tunde's confession, Yemisi's protests, her own feigned hurt. She labeled the file admit underscore and underscore repent underscore 07.30.mp4, then encrypted it. Next, she drafted an anonymous email to Mama Olatunde, complete with cryptic hints about disloyalty in the study. She paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then, with a steady breath, she clicked send. Tunde might believe she'd forgiven him, but Chioma was already 5 moves ahead. The real war had only just begun. That night, Chioma crept through the mansion's marble halls, guided by the pale glow of her smartphone. She checked the guard rota. Uncle Bode had bribed the night watch, ensuring the security room remained blind to the east wing. The heist would be brief. Outside Mama Olatunde's suite, Chioma's pulse pounded. She pressed a knee to the door. Silence. Using a slender lockpick, she deftly turned the mechanism, slipped inside. The room exuded opulence, silk drapes, lacquered ebony furniture, family portraits of Olatunde's past. Chioma advanced to the antique secretary desk, its drawers protected by a simple key she'd borrowed from Uncle Bode Alia. She slid the small key into the lock, turned it, and opened the top drawer. Beneath a stack of yellowed letters lay a leather-bound folder stamped, Last Will and Testament, 2015. Chioma's breath caught. She opened it. The legal text was dense, but the key paragraph leaped off the page. Dated March 2nd, 2015, Mama Olatunde had amended the will days before Tunde's birth, naming Chioma as a co-beneficiary, alongside Lola and Uncle Bode. Chioma's eyes shimmered in the lamplight. She snapped photos with her phone, then carefully returned the folder. Just as she clicked the final image, a soft creak sounded behind her. She froze. Mama Olatunde stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp as obsidian. Chioma. Her voice was calm but icy. Couldn't sleep. Chioma turned, slipping the phone into her clutch. I heard a noise. She forced a smile. Thought I'd check on you. Mama Olatunde's gaze drifted to the open desk drawer. You always look out for your in-laws. She stepped forward, closing the drawer. Very thoughtful. Chioma's heart pounded. Is everything all right? Mama Olatunde locked eyes with her. Everything. She tapped the folder beneath the papers. I hope you appreciate the generosity your husband's family has shown you. Chioma swallowed. Of course. Mama Olatunde's lips twitched. Remember, generosity can be rescinded. She turned and walked away. Chioma exhaled once Mama's door clicked shut. Her hands trembled, excitement and fear mingled. She had the will, and her power had just multiplied. But now she'd been seen. The matriarch knew something. And Mama Olatunde was not a woman to be taken lightly. In the weeks that followed, the mansion was abuzz with talk of Chioma's news. She arrived at breakfast one morning in a flowing white dress, the cut hinting at a gentle curve to her belly. Tunde nearly dropped his coffee. Is it true? He asked, voice hushed, eyes luminous. Chioma smiled, placing a hand over her abdomen. I spoke to my doctor. He says everything looks great. Lola fluttered to her side. Sister-in-law, congratulations. She hugged Chioma, mimicking the neat grace of social media influencers. I can't wait to be an aunt. Mama Olatunde entered, smoothing her silk kaftan. Let me see. She gently placed her hand on Chioma's stomach, then raised an elegant eyebrow. Well done. Later, Chioma retreated to the study, closing the door. She removed the sonogram photo she'd commissioned from a private clinic. Real equipment, real image, but a stranger's scan. She archived it in a folder labeled Life_2018. Beside it sat a file, Will_2015. She copied both onto a secure drive. Returning to Tunde, she played the role of the delighted, expectant wife. Over the next days, she announced doctor's appointments, invited family to special brunches, and dropped hints about nursery decor. The household rose to accommodate her whim. Servants painted the guest wing pastel yellow. Lola purchased stuffed giraffes from Cartier. Mama Olatunde commissioned a custom mobile for the crib. Tunde was smitten, completely disarmed. He carried Chioma's handbag for her, fussed over her dietary whims, and even apologized to Yemisi for misunderstandings. The mistress, now sidelined and humiliated, faded from view. But Chioma's facade had a razor-sharp purpose. Her fake pregnancy bought time. Time to solidify alliances. Time to drain Tunde of sympathy. Time to trigger Mama's maternal instinct so Chioma could see exactly where the matriarch's loyalties lay. As she lay in bed that night, Chioma placed her hand on her belly and whispered, We're almost there. Then she closed her eyes, already crafting the next move. With the family distracted by baby fever, Chioma seized the moment to strike at the empire's financial heart. She arranged a clandestine meeting in the boardroom of Olatunde Holdings. Late at night, the room empty save for her and Uncle Bode. Bode sat behind the polished mahogany table, eyes gleaming. You have the will, he said, leaning forward. Chioma nodded, sliding the encrypted drive across the table. As promised. He pocketed it. And now, the business. His fingers drummed on the table. I've arranged for a rival company, Zenith Capital, to acquire a controlling stake in Olatunde Holdings. Chioma's pulse quickened. Zenith Capital, Abdelmaneem's outfit. He smiled. Exactly. They have the funds. They despise your husband's family because they were shut out of the oil contracts. They'll pay top naira. Chioma steepled her fingers. How much of our shares? 30%, Bode said. That alone will shift the board majority. Chioma closed her eyes, imagining Tunde's face when he logged into the trading platform and found his net worth slashed by over 50 billion Nigerian nairas. Make it happen. They shook on it. The next morning, the press release dropped. Zenith Capital acquires 30% stake in Olatunde Holdings. Headlines screamed about a hostile takeover, investors panicked, and the company's stock plummeted. Tunde's phone exploded with calls from frantic board members, analysts, and scandal-hungry reporters. In the midst of the chaos, Chioma walked into the office with a serene smile. She greeted her husband with a gentle kiss on the cheek. Rough day, she whispered. He turned, eyes red-rimmed. Our empire is crumbling. Chioma's lips curved. Or rebuilding. As Tunde staggered from meeting to meeting, Chioma slipped away to her private vault, now bursting with digital evidence, financial leverage, and the promise of absolute victory. The Olatunde Empire had met its match, and Chioma was just getting started. Late one evening, the Olatunde drawing room was empty except for Chioma and a single lamp casting long shadows on the Persian rug. She pored over envelopes she had purchased from a discreet online vendor, thick parchment, ornate seals. Each was addressed to a member of the family, Mama Olatunde, Uncle Bode, Tunde, even the loyal household manager, Mrs. Ajayi. Chioma dipped her pen in ink and scrawled a final, chilling sentence in each letter. Ask yourself who stood to benefit when Lola nearly died. She sealed them with crimson wax and a thumbprint emblem of her own design. The next morning, the mansion buzzed with gossip. One by one, envelopes appeared on pillows, desks, and dinner plates. At breakfast, Mama Olatunde sat rigidly in her chair, the seal broken, eyes narrowed as she read. Tunde clutched his letter, jaw clenched. Even Uncle Bode looked up from his paper with feigned innocence. Chioma watched from the doorway, feigning surprise. What's going on? She asked sweetly. Lola, still weak but recovering, trembled. Someone's accusing Tunde of poisoning me. Tunde's face reddened. That's absurd. He crumpled the paper, tossed it beside his plate. Mama Olatunde's voice was low, cold. Benefited when Lola nearly died. Who would write such a thing? Chioma stepped forward. I don't know. It's frightening. She placed a hand on Mama's arm. Maybe the doctor leaked the report. Mama brushed her off. Funny, only these letters mention poisoning. She folded her paper carefully, lips thinning. Chioma caught Uncle Bode's gaze, the slightest twitch of satisfaction. He was hiding something. After breakfast, Chioma escorted Mama to her library under the pretense of discussing charity work. Once inside, Chioma closed the door and held up her letter. You received one of these. Mama's breath hitched. Yes. She glared at Chioma. Do you know anything? Chioma shook her head. Only that someone wants us to suspect Tunde. She crossed her arms. Do you? Mama hesitated, then looked away. I don't know. Her composure cracked. She clicked her tongue. This family, secrets fester like open wounds. Chioma nodded sympathetically. Perhaps we should find the source together. Mama's eyes flicked to Chioma's chest, then back to her face. Very well. Chioma let a small smile play on her lips. The first crack had appeared in the family's united front. Now the real reckoning could begin. Lola had been unconscious for days, lingering on the edge between life and death. When she finally stayed in the hospital's private suite, her first awareness was of a dull ache in her head and the whir of machines. She blinked, horrified to find her hand trembling as she grasped a rose from her bedside table. Tunde was at her side in an instant. Lola, he whispered, relief flooding his features. You awake? He held her hand, his voice choked. Lola tried to speak, but her tongue felt thick. She cleared her throat. Why? Her eyes darted to the foredrip. Did I almost die? Tunde's face crumpled. Lola, I would never. She shook her head weakly. That letter. Poison. Her gaze flicked to the crumpled note on the bedside table, handed to her by the nurse. It said it wasn't an accident. Tunde swallowed. He glanced at the closed door, then back to Lola's wide eyes. It's not safe to talk about it. She tried to push herself up but winced. The room was spinning. Tears brimmed. You have to tell me the truth. He looked away, shame darkening his face. Lola's heart pounded. Something was very wrong. At that moment, Chioma slipped in, radiant in a soft pink blouse and tailored trousers. She paused at the door, concern etched on her face. How are you feeling? Lola's eyes narrowed. Don't pretend. Chioma's lips curved. I'm sorry, Lola. I've arranged for the best care. Tunde's shoulders squared. Chioma. Chioma held up her hand. Let her speak. She went to the window, folding her arms. Lola turned to her. Chioma, did you? Chioma blinked, then smiled, an unsettling mimic of warmth. I would never harm family. Lola stared at Chioma's perfect composure. The shiver down her spine told her Chioma was lying. But how to prove it? Tunde cleared his throat. Let's not jump to conclusions. Lola forced out a laugh. Conclusions? She rested back against the pillows. It's just me imagining things. I'll be okay. Chioma crossed to her, squeezing her hand. Rest now. As Tunde and Chioma exchanged a look, Lola felt isolation, trapped by affections that tasted like poison. Days later, Chioma invited Tunde to her private study, ostensibly to review nursery plans, but really to record her husband's reactions. She'd positioned a hidden recorder in the desk lamp. Tunde entered, smiling softly. I found some great ideas for baby names. He sat across from her, relaxed. Chioma poured tea, steaming jasmine, carefully chosen for its scent. She placed 2 cups on the desk, and Saturday, I thought we could narrow them down. He nodded, picking up a cup. Sure. He drank deeply, but Chioma's eyes were on his fingertips stained yellow. Turmeric? Or something else? She tilted her head. Tunde, you look tired. He sighed, rubbing his temple. It's the company. Tonight, the board, they voted again. Chioma leaned forward. What happened? He ran a hand through his hair. They found out about the Zenith deal. His eyes flicked to the recorder lamp. And they want answers. They think I betrayed them. Chioma's lips curved. You didn't. He stared at her, frustration and hurt mingling. I almost went to prison, Chioma. If that evidence hadn't leaked, He stopped, realizing the camera's red light flickered. Panic fled. What is that? Chioma raised an eyebrow. That? It's my new desk lamp. She pointed to it innocently. Cute, isn't it? He stood abruptly, knocking over his tea. The liquid pooled, steam rising. You set me up. His voice cracked. You've been spying on me since I messed up Lola's juice. Chioma's smile was ice. I just wanted to protect you. He recoiled as though struck. Protect me. He brushed past her, slamming the door. Chioma pressed stop on her hidden remote. The recorder clicked off. She sat back, triumphant. The truth would emerge on her terms. Chioma's next move targeted the mistress, Yemisi. She collected every piece of evidence, bank transfers from Tunde's hidden account, steamy messages, photos of clandestine dinners. She composed an anonymous dossier and delivered it to Yemisi's workplace, a leading fashion house in Victoria Island. The next morning, Yemisi arrived at the office to whispers and pointed fingers. Her manager confronted her in a glass-walled office. Miss, is it true? He slid the dossier across the desk. Screenshots, bank statements, social media evidence. I have to ask. Yemisi's face drained of color. This isn't mine. He raised an eyebrow. Your signature on the memo transferring funds. Your messages to the CEO about favors. This is serious. As security escorted a sobbing Yemisi from the premises, Chioma watched from her car outside, sunglasses shielding her triumph. Yemisi, once so proud, now crumbled publicly. Chioma allowed herself a small smile. One more pawn down. Mema Olatunde had always been the family's iron pillar. But the accumulated revelations, poison juice, secret recording, hostile takeover, Yemisi's scandal, finally shattered her. Chioma arranged an innocuous luncheon at the mansion, inviting only Mama, Tunde, and a trusted lawyer. As they sipped mint-infused water on the veranda, Chioma excused herself under the guise of fetching cakes. Inside the dining room, she triggered a pre-scheduled email, anonymously sent, to Mama's phone. It contained the proof of the original will and the forged pregnancy documents, side by side, laid bare. When Chioma returned, she found Mama slumped at the table, her face in her hands, shoulders heaving. Tunde knelt beside her, pale. "Mother!" he cried. Mama raised trembling hands, eyes red-rimmed. "My life, a lie." Tunde grabbed her phone, scrolled. "It can't be." His voice cracked. Chioma stood quietly by the door, watching. After months of careful orchestration, the matriarch had finally broken. Mama dropped the phone onto the table. "You both betrayed me." She looked at Chioma, then at Tunde. "I built this family on trust, and you poisoned it." With that, Mama Olatunde fled the room, tears streaming, collapsing into a corridor sofa. Her breakdown echoed down the marble hall, a haunting testament to Chioma's victory. Chioma exhaled, the final piece in place. With the matriarch incapacitated and the family empire in shambles, the path ahead was clear. Only Chioma would stand unbroken when the dust settled. The next morning, Lagos woke to headlines splashed across every online portal. Olatunde era survives poisoning. Toxicology report shocks family. An anonymous tip had found its way to prominent investigative journalist Kemi Adio, who wasted no time in publishing the full toxicology findings alongside Chioma's leaked CCTV footage of Tunde lacing the drink. In her studio office, Kemi replayed the clip for her editor, Mr. Okafor, as he sipped his morning tea. "Look at this," Kemi said, pointing to the screen. "He doesn't even hesitate. That's deliberate." Okafor leaned forward. "We run it. Full front page tomorrow." Within hours, social media boiled over. Hashtags like #JusticeForChioma and #OlatundeScandal trended nationwide. Calls flooded the mansion. Board members, family friends, even political figures, demanding statements. The Olatunde name, once synonymous with prestige, tumbled into infamy. Inside the mansion, Chioma watched responses from her hidden study, her expression unreadable. Tunde paced the drawing room, phone glued to his ear. "No, I didn't do it," he screamed into the receiver. "That footage is doctored." Uncle Bode appeared at the threshold, his face pale. "They've frozen the family accounts pending an inquiry." Tunde's knees buckled. "Our liquidity." He staggered, gripping the console. The empire he'd inherited was collapsing in real time, and Chioma's single leak had triggered an avalanche. Chioma closed her laptop and rose, slipping on her coat. "I have a press engagement," she told her reflection in the window, an announcement about her pregnancy health scare. As she exited, the mansion's lights blinked under relentless media drones. Chapter 16 closed on Chioma's calm silhouette against the storm she'd unleashed. Just 3 days later, Tunde attempted to reclaim control by eloping with Yemisi in a private ceremony at St. Matthias Church on Victoria Island. He'd secured the rabbi's confidentiality and hoped that a secret wedding might salvage his fading reputation. The sanctuary's wooden doors opened to a handful of guests. Most were unaware of the scandal outside. The air smelled of frankincense and fresh blooms. Tunde, in a crisp white tuxedo, waited nervously at the altar. Yemisi, radiant in ivory lace, clutched a small bouquet. As the pastor began, "Dearly beloved," the church organ creaked. At that exact moment, police officers filled the side aisles, badges glinting. The pastor's voice faltered. "What is the meaning of this?" Detective Musa stepped forward, voice firm. "Tunde Olatunde, you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and corporate fraud." He produced a warrant. Gasps echoed through the pews. Yemisi dropped her bouquet, eyes wide in horror. Tunde's face went ashen. "This is a mistake," he cried, hands shaking. Chioma emerged from the back, silhouette framed by the stained glass window. She watched as officers cuffed Tunde, his bride of an hour wailing beside him. The entire congregation stood frozen, witnesses to a fall so swift it rivaled the speed of gossip. As Tunde was led out, Chioma turned to the stunned pastor. "Thank you," she whispered. Outside, cameras flashed. Chapter 17 ended on Tunde's defeated silhouette disappearing beneath the blue lights of police cruisers. A week later, Chioma held a press conference at the Lagos International Press Center. A semicircle of reporters, microphones thrust forward, awaited her arrival. The room buzzed with anticipation. She walked to the podium in a white pantsuit, simple, elegant, with her pregnancy reveal hidden beneath a tailored blazer. The cameras focused, the murmurs stilled. "Good afternoon," she began, voice clear and steady. "I stand before you today not as a victim, but as a survivor." She paused, scanning the room. "On July 10th, I uncovered a plot that nearly cost me my life. My husband attempted to poison me, an act caught on camera, corroborated by medical reports." Flashbulbs popped. Reporters scribbled feverishly. "I did not go to the press immediately," Chioma continued. "I sought discretion, hoping to preserve my family. But when the wheels of power conspired to silence me, I chose truth." A journalist shouted, "What do you say to those who accuse you of orchestrating this for revenge?" Chioma looked him in the eye. "I say this, I did not swap cups out of malice. I did it in self-defense. I am a woman with a voice, and I will not be silenced." She closed by unveiling her philanthropic initiative, a foundation for domestic violence survivors and assault victims. "My strength is my story," she said, "and I intend to use it to help others reclaim theirs." As she stepped down, spontaneous applause erupted. Outside, rallies formed, women in white t-shirts chanting her name. Chapter 18 closed on Chioma's serene smile amid a sea of support. With Tunde jailed and public trust evaporated, Olatunde Holdings Board convened an emergency session. The Zenith Capital takeover clause had already activated, and the boardroom was split. Some loyalists decried betrayal, others demanded accountability. Uncle Bode, once the family's financial anchor, fled the country overnight when Interpol placed him on a watch list. Lawyers arrived with asset freeze orders. Luxury properties in Lekki and Abuja were locked under court injunctions. Murma Olatunde, reclusive since her breakdown, remained unreachable. Rumors swirled that she'd disappeared to her hometown in Ekiti, surrounded by private guards. The matriarch's seat on the board lay empty. Chioma attended the final board vote via video link, her encrypted line protecting her identity from hostile shareholders. When the resolution passed, transferring majority control to Zenith Capital and removing corrupt executives, she removed her headset and allowed herself a brief exhale. The Olatunde Empire, once a monolith, had splintered, and she had seen it done. By nightfall, the company's headquarters bore banners, "New Leadership, a New Era." Chapter 19 closed on the empty boardroom, chairs overturned, signaling the end of an empire built on deceit. 6 months later, Chioma walked barefoot along Tarkwa Bay Beach. The Atlantic waves lapped at her feet under a soft sunrise. Gone were the tailored suits and mansion corridors. In their place, linen dresses and open horizons. Her coastal villa overlooked the water, its veranda decorated with potted bougainvillea. Inside, orphan children from her foundation played quietly under the care of staff she personally vetted. A guest arrived, Dr. Ibuku, clutching a stack of medical books. "You look well," he said with genuine warmth. Chioma smiled. "And my baby?" He handed her an ultrasound printout. "Perfect heartbeat." She placed the sonogram beside the old will she'd framed on her desk, a quiet reminder of how far she'd come. That evening, Chioma hosted a small gathering, friends, survivors she'd helped, and community leaders. They toasted on the patio as the sun dipped below the horizon. Chioma raised her glass of fresh juice, pina colada, inspired, sweet and bright. She closed her eyes, breathing in salt air and freedom. "No poison here," she murmured with a soft laugh. "Only new beginnings." And as the final glow of dusk faded, Chioma Olatunde, once the target of a deadly conspiracy, stood tranquil, her power reclaimed, her legacy redefined. Chapter 20 closed on her silhouette against the endless sea, a queen unbound. The end.